Hi, welcome to episode 3 of Calm Cohesion Across Literacy Models. What I know and what I don't know yet. In this episode, I want to slow the conversation down even further and speak from a place of transparency. The ideas I share here reflect my own professional thinking shaped by years of experiences in classrooms, coaching, and ongoing learning. They represent what I understand right now, and just as importantly, what I'm still wrestling with, questioning, and learning more about. Calm has never been about presenting finished answers. It, it's a place for just making space for reflection and curiosity and growth, recognizing that educators, strong educators, continue to evolve their thinking as new evidence and experience and perspectives emerge. So, thank you for being here, for staying curious, and for being willing to engage in this kind of thoughtful, open conversation about literacy. I want to take some time in this conversation to talk about what I know and what I don't know yet, not as a way to position myself against anyone or to justify a stance, but as a way to be transparent about where calm is coming from and why it exists. We're living in an educational season where literacy conversations feel fast, loud, and increasingly polarized and political. There's a sense that we are expected to arrive at certainty quickly, align decisively, and then move on. That feels noisy. But literacy understandings, real literacy work with children, does not develop that way. So, this conversation is not about persuasion, it's not a defense, it's not a resume. It's about grounding our work in honesty, about experience, about learning, and about the tensions that we're navigating together. In an effort to share where my perspectives are coming from, I'm going to share just three things that I know. I know how to teach children to read. I know that because I've done it over and over again across years, across classrooms, across grade levels, across contexts. I've taught hundreds of children how to read. I've taught children who have accelerated quickly and children who needed real instruction for change. I've taught children who have required explicit systematic instruction and children who needed responsive, adaptive moves in the moment. I've taught using every material imaginable, from magnetic letters to flashcards to leveled texts to enlarged texts. I've my understanding of reading didn't come from a single training or a single framework or model or method. It was built in classrooms with children in real time through noticing, adjusting, reflecting, learning. And because of that, I know that reading development is both structured and variable. It's predictable and very human. I also know how to support teachers in refining their understandings of how to teach children to read. I've spent decades coaching, learning how to walk alongside teachers as they deepen their practice, ask hard questions, and refine instruction based on what students show us. I was trained as a literacy coach decades ago and later trained and continue to train dozens of literacy coaches myself. I've also served as an undergraduate lecturer for literacy methods courses, supporting future teachers in building foundational understandings and in learning that teaching reading is never about following a script without thought. Across all of those roles, I've learned that good coaching is not about telling teachers what to do. It's about supporting them and understanding why instructional decisions matter and how to make them responsibly. I know how to be explicit and I know how to be responsive, and I know that those things aren't opposites. I also know how systems shape instruction. I want to be transparent about the perspective I bring to this work. I hold an Ohio elementary teaching license for grades 1 through 8, a teacher leader endorsement, and a master's degree in language and literacy from The Ohio State University. I have completed all available Ohio Department of Education coursework related to the science of reading and dyslexia, and my professional learning has consistently focused on how research, assessment, and instruction intersect in real school systems. I've taught in two Central Ohio school districts and have coached, consulted, and partnered with educators across many more. My entire career has been rooted in tier one and tier two instruction, studying it, teaching it, and supporting teams as they work to make it function well for all students. I am not a special education teacher, and I want to be really clear about that. I rely heavily on the expertise of school psychologists and special education teachers, and I view that collaboration as essential. My role has always been to strengthen core and supplementary literacy instruction so that fewer students need intensive intervention, and to ensure that when they do, we are all working from a shared, informed system. Over the years, I've worked extensively with Ohio approved structured literacy assessments like AIMSweb and DIPPLES and MAP, NWEA, iReady, and STAR. I've worked alongside structured and explicit instructional programs or models such as Haggerty and Foundations and UFly and Being a Reader, Fish Tank, and Benchmark Advance. And at the same time, I've also used balanced, comprehensive, and responsive literacy assessments, including the observation survey, benchmark assessment system, developmental reading assessment, the DeFord sentence writing, six traits, developmental spelling analysis, as well as instructional frameworks like the Comprehensive Literacy Framework, Literacy Collaborative Framework, Reading Recovery Framework, and Leveled Literacy Intervention. That range of experience has shaped how I think. It's not about choosing sides or labeling approaches as right or wrong. It's about understanding how high quality instruction, both structured and responsive, intentionally, coherently, and in service of sound instructional decisions. As an MTSS leader across multiple districts, I've supported teams in building tier 1 clarity and developing tier 2 decision-making processes, helping them establish progress monitoring routines and making instructional adjustments grounded in both data and observation. I've helped districts implement MTS frameworks that actually function, where assessment informs instruction and where instruction informs the next steps and teams that share responsibility for the outcomes. I deeply believe MTSS is strong, a very strong student centered process, but only when it recognizes a simple truth that educating hundreds of students in a school requires a range of instructional options, aligned systems, and adults who understand how those systems work together. I haven't learned from one method of assessment or one method of teaching. I've had the benefit of using a variety of methods to best meet the needs of my students. Many of the teaching methods and assessments I listed are viewed as opposite or competing. My question is why? Why would anything be off limits if a teacher finds success with it when teaching students? So, when I say I understand the complexity of implementing literacy instruction within a system, under mandates, under timelines, accountability, I mean it literally. All of this is to say what I know comes from sustained practice, from having an open mind and learning, from leadership and a lot of reflection, and that knowing matters, not because it makes me right, because teaching carries great responsibility. With all that shared, there are also things I don't know yet. And I think that naming them matters just as much. I don't know how to maintain deep, grounded expertise in a politically charged literacy environment where sometimes knowledge is increasingly treated as positional, where sharing a stance can be misread as resistance, or where nuance is sometimes interpreted as a refusal to comply. I don't know how to hide my experience in the face of what often feels like combative discourse. And I don't know how to help teachers do that either. I don't know how to assimilate to a landscape where teaching techniques or materials or instructional approaches are removed from teachers' repertoires, not because they're ineffective, but because they, I don't know, no longer align with a particular narrative. I don't know how to function in an either or teaching environment when everything I've learned, everything that children have shown me tells me that diverse learners require access to multiple ideas, a variety of materials, and many forms of expertise. I don't know how to accept a narrowing of professional judgment when our collective goal, I believe, is to serve all children really well. As I continue to think about what I'm learning, I realize that most literacy beliefs have far more in common than they have differences. And even where differences exist, those differences can still benefit children when they are understood and not erased. This is why calm exists. Calm isn't about certainty. It's not about winning arguments. And it's not about choosing sides. Calm is about coherence across literacy methods, across systems, across beliefs. It's about staying grounded in what we know and staying open to what we're still learning and refusing to reduce complex instructional work into simplistic choices. The next episodes of Calm will focus on unpacking instructional frameworks within structured literacy and balanced comprehensive responsive literacy. You might be surprised how similar they actually are. This has been a calm conversation, making sense of literacy without the noise.